She looked across the table at him with tears welling in her eyes and said the words he never expected to hear. "You can leave now if you want. I need to tell you something. I'm a single mom." Her voice was shaking, her hands trembling as she reached for her water glass. The restaurant around them buzzed with conversation and clinking silverware. But in that moment, everything went quiet. He could see the fear in her face, the resignation, like she'd been through this before and already knew how it would end. If you love stories about real human connection and unexpected kindness, you're in the right place. Please subscribe to Sage Stories and hit that like button. We'd also love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Now let me tell you how this beautiful story really began. Mark hadn't been on a date in 4 years. 4 long years since his wife Sarah passed away from cancer, leaving him alone with their 6-year-old daughter Emma. He'd thrown himself into being both mom and dad, learning to braid hair through YouTube videos at 2 in the morning, packing elaborate lunches that never turned out quite right, and reading the same bedtime stories until he had them memorized. His sister Jennifer had been pushing him for months to try dating again. "Sarah would want you to be happy," she'd say every time she came over to watch. "Emma, you're allowed to move forward, Mark." He'd finally downloaded a dating app 3 weeks earlier, mostly to get Jennifer off his back. He'd swiped through dozens of profiles half-heartedly, feeling guilty with each one. Then he saw Rachel's picture. She had kind eyes and a genuine smile, not the posed glamour shots so many profiles had. Her bio was simple and real. Coffee enthusiast, book lover, terrible at mini-golf but willing to try. Something about her felt safe, approachable. He'd sent a message before he could overthink it. Their conversation had flowed easily over text. She was funny and thoughtful, asking real questions instead of just making small talk. When she suggested meeting for dinner at a quiet Italian place on the edge of town, his stomach had done somersaults for 2 days straight. The morning of the date, Emma had watched him change his shirt 3 times.
"Daddy, you look nervous," she'd said,
giggling from his bed where she sat surrounded by stuffed animals. "It's just dinner, sweetheart," he'd replied, though his shaking hands told a different story. "Miss Jennifer is going to make you mac and cheese tonight." Emma had hugged him tight before he left. "Have fun, Daddy, you deserve to be happy." Now here he sat across from Rachel, and for the first time in years, he'd felt something like hope. The conversation had been even better in person. She'd laughed at his terrible dad jokes, shared stories about her work as an elementary school teacher, and listened with genuine interest. When he talked about his job as a software developer, he found himself relaxing, smiling more easily than he had in months. They discovered they both loved old mystery novels and terrible horror movies. She admitted she couldn't cook to save her life and survived, mostly on takeout and cereal. He'd shared that he'd learned to cook out of necessity but still managed to burn toast regularly. An hour into the dinner, he'd almost forgotten to be nervous. Rachel had this way of making everything feel easy and natural. She asked about his hobbies, his favorite places in the city, what made him laugh. He asked about her childhood, her dreams, why she chose to become a teacher. The food came and went, barely noticed. He was actually enjoying himself, feeling a lightness he'd forgotten existed. That's when everything changed. He'd just finished telling a funny story about Emma's recent school talent show where she'd insisted on performing a dramatic reading of a grocery list. When Rachel's expression shifted, the easy smile faded. She set down her fork and took a deep breath, the kind people take before jumping into cold water. "Mark, I need to tell you something," she said quietly, "and I want you to know it's okay if this changes things." His mind raced through possibilities. She was moving away. She was getting back with an ex. She wasn't interested. "Okay," he said carefully, trying to keep his voice steady. "I have a daughter," Rachel said, the words coming out in a rush. "She's 7. Her name is Sophie. Her dad left when she was 2, and I've been raising her on my own ever since." She paused, looking down at her hands. "I should have told you sooner. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I wanted to have one normal evening before." She trailed off, and he could see her blinking back tears. Most guys, when they find out, they're gone. And I get it. It's a lot. So if you want to leave, I understand. You can go. No hard feelings. The restaurant noise rushed back. Somewhere behind them, someone laughed. A waiter walked by with a tray of desserts. Mark felt something break open in his chest, a recognition so profound it almost hurt. Here was this beautiful, kind woman, offering him an escape route, expecting rejection, bracing herself for disappointment. She had no idea. He reached across the table and gently took her hand. "Rachel, look at me," he said softly. She lifted her eyes and he could see the vulnerability there, the protective wall she'd built up from too many letdowns. "I'm not leaving. I need to tell you something too." Her eyes widened slightly, confused. "I'm a single dad," he said, and watched her expression shift from resignation to surprise. "My daughter Emma is 8. My wife passed away 4 years ago. I've been doing this alone since then, and I know exactly how hard it is." He squeezed her hand gently. "I know about the guilt when you're too tired to play after work. I know about explaining to your kid why the other parent isn't there. I know about the loneliness and the judgment, and the constant worry that you're somehow failing them." A tear slipped down Rachel's cheek. "You have a daughter?" "I do," he said, smiling. "And she made me change my shirt 3 times before I came here tonight." Rachel laughed through her tears, a sound of pure relief and joy. "Sophie helped me pick out this dress. She told me I looked like a princess and that any prince would be lucky to have dinner with me." They both laughed then, really laughed, and something shifted between them. The pretense fell away. For the next 2 hours, they talked about the reality of single parenthood. Rachel shared about the time Sophie got sick at school and she'd had to leave her class mid-lesson, sprinting to the nurse's office in a panic. Mark told her about learning to do Emma's hair for picture day and showing up at school with the most lopsided ponytail anyone had ever seen. They swapped stories about parent-teacher conferences, where they were both parent and attendee, holidays that felt incomplete, and small victories that meant everything. "Do you know what the hardest part is?" Rachel asked as they shared a piece of tiramisu neither of them had room for. "Not the logistical stuff or the financial stress or the exhaustion. It's feeling like you have to hide this huge part of your life to be acceptable to someone new. Like being a parent makes you damaged goods." "Yes," Mark said emphatically. "I almost didn't mention Emma in my profile because I was afraid no one would even talk to me, and then I felt terrible for even considering hiding her. Like I was ashamed, which I'm not. She's the best thing in my life." "Sophie is my whole world," Rachel agreed. "But I also miss adult conversation and connection. I miss feeling like a complete person, not just someone's mom." They understood each other in a way that went beyond attraction or compatibility. They'd both fought the same battles, carried the same burdens, and survived the same storms. When Mark walked Rachel to her car that night, they stood in the parking lot talking for another 30 minutes, reluctant to let the evening end. "I'd really like to see you again," he said. "Maybe next time we could do something with the girls? No pressure, just casual. Emma loves the science museum." Rachel's face lit up. "Sophie would love that. She's obsessed with dinosaurs right now." She paused, then added quietly, "Thank you for not running away." "Thank you for being honest," he replied. "For what it's worth, I think any guy who walked away from you is an idiot." 3 months later, Mark and Rachel sat on a park bench watching Emma and Sophie race each other to the swings, their laughter echoing across the playground. The girls had become inseparable, and Mark and Rachel had built something neither of them expected to find. Not a perfect fairy tale, but something better. A real partnership built on understanding, patience, and shared experience. "Remember when I told you that you could leave?" Rachel said, leaning her head on Mark's shoulder. "Best thing you ever said to me," Mark replied, wrapping his arm around her. "Because it gave me the chance to show you I was staying. Sometimes the moments we expect to end in disappointment become the beginning of something beautiful." Rachel's honesty and Mark's understanding created space for real love to grow. They didn't have to hide their struggles or pretend to be people without complications. They could be whole, messy, perfectly imperfect humans who found each other at exactly the right time. Their story reminds us that vulnerability isn't weakness. Being honest about who we are and what we carry takes tremendous courage. And sometimes when we're brave enough to show someone our truth, we discover they've been carrying the same weight all along. The kindness of understanding, of staying when someone gives you permission to leave, of seeing past the surface to the beautiful heart underneath. That's the kindness that changes lives. If this story touched your heart, share your own story of unexpected connection in the comments below. Sometimes the people who understand us best are the ones fighting battles similar to our own.